Jaffa cakes in front of me. You're making me hungry.
Where are you on the cover, James?
You.
Where are you on the cover? Where are you?
Oh, is that? Have you seen
where
that?
you are?
No, I've not seen the cover.
There you go.
I mean, you won't have a chance of
But I've no idea. Well, my eyesight's terrible, as people will know. But
well, that's one of the qualifications for being a referee.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can spot everyone on the pitch, is there a list? Do we know how many people are on there, Phil? I know
There's lots.
There's lots. So I'll put it there in the corner. I'll try and let me.
That's the cover of the 13th anniversary issue, which is out in shops on Friday.
Marvellous.
Go buy it.
But that cover has taken 8 months to put together in the style of Sergeant Pepper's Lonely
I was going to
Hearts.
say...
Let's have a look, right. I mean, I'm
Keegan
there.
Hurst is there.
That's me, I'm there.
Danica's there.
Too short. I'm not allowed to be too close to Danica for legal reasons.
Is that the restraining
I've got an injunction out on it.
Brian Noble, star of the magazine.
Jake Connor,
Craig
Dom
Lingard.
Young, Craig Lingard. He's had a good week, hasn't he?
Oh, you're there, look. Microphone in
Yes,
hand.
that's me. Yeah.
Yeah.
A half hidden, has to be said. Ian Bowles was up there.
Well, you have got to be
Mal
in the microphone.
Meninga. Well,
That's
yeah,
your own
Mal
fault.
Meninga. Rob Burrow. Was that deliberate? Because Rob Burrow's small and Mal Meninga's tall.
That's life size.
Yeah.
Ellie Hanley.
And
Some
he would
trophies.
have liked that comment.
Brian Carney.
Yeah, Johnny Vegas.
Yeah.
Big Louie in the middle.
Wolfie.
Sonny. Bill.
Still looking for James, aren't we?
Dave Woods. Oh, there he is, look. Blowing a whistle.
That's your good side.
Yeah.
Jodie Cunningham. Phil Kaplan, he's there. Richard Stead. Seems on Sky Sports more than some of the coaches.
Oh, look,
yesterday.
even a young version of Phil.
I know.
There you go.
This is not great
30
podcast, by the way.
30
Well, I know,
This is
but
visual.
the people come looking at. I mean, here's the rarest thing: a picture of Paul Cook in a Wakefield shirt.
Now, what's that shield? What's that? GB.
Is that the
That's the
basketball shield?
Shield.
What year
So that's
was that?
GB.
2007.
No.
No, but that kit's earlier than that. Though. Is that?
Oh, unless it. Yeah.
That's a
90
John Smith's kit.
90
That's like a 90s Umbro kit, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Basically, if you go to the, I've still not found you, have we? You must.
No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
found myself.
Oh, you found
Yeah,
yourself?
Bottom left. Is that Robert Hicks with a head?
Yeah.
I'm just below.
Oh yeah, there you are.
Next to
Next
Tom
to
It's
Halliwell.
because you're to the side, you see.
Yeah.
That's why. they
Tom
recognise
Halliwell smiling at.
you. Buy the magazine. It's
Just for the
written-
cover?
Yeah, just for the cover. Just frame
Never
it.
mind the
Frame it.
words that are in it.
If you can work out who all the people are, we'll send you an empty box of cola flavoured Jaffa cakes.
It will be empty.
Welcome to the programme. James is back. Are you on the loony left and I'm on the hard right and James is in the middle? He's the
centre.
referee, yeah. Centrist referees. How are you, James? We've not seen you for a few
I'm
weeks.
good,
You've been
thank
busy.
you. Yeah,
Actually
been,
doing work and
rushed
stuff.
off my feet, doing all sorts of things. But yeah, trying to launch a business whilst working and public speaking, it's a challenge. But it's been a good, interesting month, and also reviewing referees as well.
Oh,
Of course.
of course.
Yeah.
Have you recovered yet, Phil? Not from Saturday, which was a dreadful game in
Saturday
Super
was
League.
matchboxes on the go.
Because
Staying up all night watching the election.
foolishly stayed, and I did
Well,
the
I
same.
think part of the problem is about halfway through Friday you realise how old you are and you go, what the hell do you do that for? I love history and I love seeing history made and the moments that happen, you've got to be in that moment. It's all very well seeing a video of it the next day, but...
The moment happens at about 10:05 though, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but then
the
I
exit
think
poll
when
bit,
the results start coming in from about 1 o'clock and there's a flow of them and you get a narrative about who's winning and who's losing, it's not about the ultimate end game because you know what that is. It's about who you're going to revel in seeing
Liz
squirt.
Truss's face.
Well, that was the perfect end,
Yeah.
particularly for the people of Roundhay who she dissed.
The Leeds girl, Roundhay girl.
No, she's
Yeah.
not. She's
No,
not.
she signed off.
Oh, you're disowning her.
Oh,
No, she isn't born here. But
She went to
her dad,
school, didn't she?
well, yeah, her dad was a lecturer at Leeds University, so they came to live up here,
I
and she
see.
dissed Roundhay School and the suburb of Roundhay when she was.
And Leeds will claim anyone who's ever been
Yeah.
anywhere near its
We
epicentre.
don't want you.
So Henry Moore,
No.
definitely Leeds, all these people.
So yeah, it was great, but yeah, there's only so much coffee a man of a certain age can drink.
Looking forward to all the MPs coming to all the rugby now.
The,
that
the,
they've got
the
free
great
tickets.
thing, and I mean, it's, without it being overly political, rugby league is the sport of rebellion. So clearly, it sits more comfortably on a certain end of the political spectrum than another. But what we've seen with the shadow cabinet is there's a rugby league leaning in that. So Lisa Nandy being the culture and sports secretary from Wigan, the first tweet she put out, if we can still call them tweets, had rugby league. Brilliant. We know that Yvette Cooper and Ed Balls are genuine Castleford fans. They might not get there as much now, but if you to say rugby league, so they know exactly what it was and what it means to the communities it's played in. Angela Rayner apparently links to Oldham, which would be great. So I think we are going to get
The Chancellor's the Leeds MP.
Leeds. Well, she's not from Leeds, but we'll take that.
See them.
But I do think that there's a chance to be a little bit more front and centre with the rugby league in the eye of the politicians.
Can we get Angela Rayner to present the Challenge Cup next year?
Keir Starmer went to Leeds University.
So did I.
So
Well, I mean, I graduated from Leeds University, and look at the sliding doors moment that is my life. I could have been in politics, but as it happens, I'm sat here talking rugby league with you. So, it's...
But again, I think having been based in Headingley, he would know if you said to him the words rugby league. But yeah, what we should be doing is saying who's available for the grand final, who might be part of the Samoa series.
Liz Truss is probably available.
Yeah, I think people that you...
We'll get a Letty to present the Challenge Cup instead. Yeah.
She certainly got more time on her hands than she had this time last week.
I'm still confused by Nana's message about shepherd's pie.
Is that what we're having for dinner?
Why shepherd's? I don't like it. But, there's some more messages. Ian wondered where we'd gone. I just had to set the microphones up. Ian's apologies. Good evening, Carsten. Whose picture of Richard and James in his room with a noose around his neck? Well, I couldn't tell you, unfortunately. I mean, James wouldn't have anyone because he's not like that.
That's the story of Woodley's.
I have no idea what's going on.
Right. We will get to mentioning it. I'm not sure there's a definitive answer.
I usually come on the podcast to find out what's happened, not comment about what's happened.
Chris, is that better now? I've turned that microphone off. You'll have to tell me because apparently it's echoey. I've set things up wrong, but I'll try and work it out while we're going. Is this the rugby league version of Where's Wally? Says Carson. The picture of the magazine.
Yeah,
so.
Well,
we found Wally. We found me.
It's Sergeant Pepper's. So for those of a certain age, it's a little bit Band on the Run, Sergeant Pepper's. The influences that have been important to the band.
Uh-huh.
Who's the best drummer in 4020 magazine?
It's the drummer that keeps the beat going.
Well, we'll see if that works. It should be working properly, but I don't know. So, where do we start then with this weekend? Because we'll come to the games later, because obviously that's what people want us to slag off.
Is there a theme this weekend that the games have been
terrible?
Right.
Sorry, did I say that out loud?
As Mark Wilson said, with all these draws, you've had a great acca, but didn't have a penny on, so that's no good. But well, close or terrible. That depends on what you. Well, you watched Saints in Castleford. Let's just jump straight into that. What did you make of Saints and Castleford?
Yeah, it wasn't great.
I woke up at about 8:15 on Friday night, bang in time to watch that game, so I was straight back to sleep at 10 o'clock.
I mean, you have to applaud Castleford. That is a great result for them.
Yeah, it is. Saints were at their best, that's for sure. Cass are building, I think. I think you can see that. They wasn't that much on show, was the scoreline tells you that 6-8, a try a piece, a couple of penalty goals and that. But Castleford got the monkey off the back, didn't they? Only a few years ago to get the win at St Helens after such a long time. So they'd be pleased to get another win there. There's not many teams who go to St Helens and win. It's hard to find superlatives to talk about the game really. Ultimately, there was a lot of errors in the game, and I think I've only watched 2 games this week, but the feeling that I got was that there were quite a few games where there was quite a lot of errors in games.
It's the perennial question, and it's not to denigrate in any way whatsoever a terrific performance by London, where they'll feel aggrieved that they didn't come away with the points. Great performance by Hull, scored more tries than Salford, didn't come away with the points. Great performance by Castleford. A really an edge of your seat game at Hull KR, but again, first half was all Catalan, second half all Hull KR. There wasn't sort of continuity throughout the game. Are we at that point in the season where A, we now start saying it's too long a season, B, the injuries are kicking in, and particularly in squads like Salford's where you lose your 2 main centres and you've only got a thin squad, it's going to affect how many points you can score. Are we at that point in the season where, without taking anything away from the great performances of the teams that are lower down the league, the standard is slipped a little bit?
Oh, I think it has, but I just think it shows that there is a lack of depth in the sport here, and so you only need the odd injury to key players, and then you haven't got that same strength and depth. And it was a conversation I was having at Keighley, for example, yesterday. So, you compare Keighley versus the Queensland Cup or whatever it is in Australia. Their teams in that will have reserve teams, and there's no reserve structure. So if you're a fringe player in a squad in say a Championship or League One team, where do you go to get game time? Are you going to the National Conference League to get game time, or trying to get a loan deal with another club? It's just, it all points to a general lack of depth, really. And the interesting point that was raised yesterday to me was about the amount of money that players are paid in the Championship and even League One compared to players of the equivalent level in Australia. It's by far much higher here that they get paid than in Australia, which perhaps is surprising to some people. It probably was surprising to me, is that actually people in Australia at that sort of level are doing it more for the love and the recognition of playing at that level.
And I think because we have a dearth of overall talent, we've got some really talented youngsters coming through, which Hull are exhibiting at the moment, but because there aren't enough of them, their scarcity value goes up. So even players who are coming in on loan or dual reg, they're taking a higher percentage of money away because they're needed. Deck Patton, signed by Featherstone, immediately gets a 6-week ban. I don't know how you cope with that as Featherstone. You've lost your investment almost there and then. But Deck Patton is somebody who is on the way supposedly to Widnes, had been at Swinton, went off to Australia. It's like his value is going up and up and up, but he's not ever going to reach Super League level. No. And perhaps that's more of an indication of where we are than the results. Teams look tired this weekend.
Yeah,
and there'll be different reasons. I don't know how you explain it, because they all had a week off last week.
Yeah, that doesn't always do teams good, though, does it? It's that perennial debate when you get to the playoffs and the team has a week off or whatever. Does it ever do that team any good? But certainly it's that League One again. The inconsistency in terms of when the games are being played. They skip a week, or because there's an odd number of teams in that competition. So it's hard, I guess, for some teams where you do regularly miss weeks to get that run. It's the same with the women's competition probably as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the converse argument then, to say that there's too many games in the men's competition, but I still maintain that I think there are too many games.
Yeah.
To then maintain a level for 28, 30 games a season when you add in cup matches and friendlies, it's impossible. It's an impossible ask to maintain a level of standard when you do not have a squad depth where you can bring somebody in of sufficient experience and skill to match the people that are, you need 1 to 17.
And that's the great thing about putting in juniors. The great thing is you can put them in and give them an experience, but you want to put them in the right environment, and putting them in because you have to put them in because there's nobody else can harm their development as much as enhance it. So you've just got to be really careful about that mix.
I mean, all that said, what people want to see, what neutrals want to see, I suppose what I want to see is contests.
Yeah.
And so it was good to see that there were some really tight games this weekend from that point of view. That's better than cricket scores.
Yeah, there was only really one game that was a walker, because even Wigan Lee, which finished 24-6, that was competitive throughout. And if there was a game in this round that matched that level of intensity that we want to see every week, then that was it. And yes, it has the derby element. Yes, it had that. Lee virtually at that stage of having to win to be in contention for the playoffs. Yes, they play each other again in a couple of weeks, because it's about 3 weeks, isn't it? Because that game was delayed for the World Club Challenge. So there was a lot riding on that, but it was really high quality. I think we can say now, because the embargo's passed, that Zach Hardacre
he's gone.
Sky sent out
a tweet saying it. So yeah, it's all exciting. I mean, what a pointless signing. I don't understand it. We all knew it was happening anyway. So when you said it's been embargoed till 6, I thought we all knew this. But have they seen Zach Hardacre recently? Has their director of rugby seen him play recently?
I mean,
he's not the player he was, because he's got older. That's the reason why.
With all the kids that they've got coming through, a lot of them in back positions,
so
to have experience around them is
not
necessarily.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh, that's a bit harsh. But,
no, I can't. I don't think any of us around this table could contradict you on
I don't understand it as a signing.
No, I think if you're trying to get a culture, it's a difficult one. And I think part of what Huddersfield are going through, which no doubt we'll talk about, is the fact that clearly they have some issues with people in the squad that don't create a culture. So I don't get it from that point of view, but I can see, having some experience around the kids that they've signed, that have got some real potential. And they're losing Liam Sutcliffe to Huddersfield, which hasn't been announced yet, but apparently is happening.
Right.
So presumably he will slip into.
I'll try to remember that one then.
Slip into that slot.
So when Tommy Mason went to Catalan, I'm sure they announced this 6 months. No, they didn't. Thanks to all the people on YouTube pointing out when it's working and when it's not. So that's good. Evening to Robert, evening to Ian. Ian says, it's okay, James. I only watched one game this weekend. As a Saints fan, that was one too many. Saints in transition, Ian. They are in transition. John Davidson wrote an article. He's who we put in a noose on a picture before we came in. It's the only other podcast we can say that about because we know him. He wrote an article and basically saying all of Saints players are getting older. I mean, we're all getting older. I understand that, but
apart from the young ones that are coming in that need some time.
I just think, and I think people need to be patient, don't they? St Helens fans need to be patient. I suppose it's difficult when you've had so much success.
But that happens.
But I mean, where are they now in the league table? I mean,
second.
They're in the dreadful position of second.
Yeah, and they play Wigan this week, and they could close that gap to 2 points.
Yeah, so people, hold your horses a little bit.
I think the other thing is that everybody knew that they were going to go through what every other team that's had a successful period in any sport, and when that happens, you cannot predict.
Yeah.
And the person that's in charge, that's left holding that baton, needs to be able to have the time and the wherewithal to manage that. Because the worst thing you can do is change on top of change. And I think if there are good young players coming through, they will have come through a system where that coach has been involved in either coaching them or seeing their development, or they'll have come up in meetings within the coaching group and say, you want to look out for this kid and we'll have to use him sparingly, but he's going to be really good. And they've got some of those are starting to play.
But to lose a player like James Rugby, I mean, you don't replace him over
Alex Walmsley as well is injured. John Lomax has been injured.
I don't think Lewis Dodd is playing as well as he has done.
And can you expect him to if he's got a huge contract away for him in South Sydney? Is that not human nature?
Possibly.
Can we be the first people to blame the new pitch? Because they've got a new pitch at the Totally Wicked Stadium, provided by Liverpool Football Club. Because Liverpool's women are moving in, aren't they? So there's the next thing will be football. It's football's fault. Like at Wigan, it's football's fault. I mean, if looking at the league table, Wigan clear with that game in hand, 4 points clear at the top of the table, and then a bunch of teams on 22. Wigan clearly the best team in the competition this year, as they were last year. You'd expect them to beat St Helens on Friday. The form book does not go out of the window, I don't believe. Especially not when Matt Peake...
But the bookies are giving them points.
Are they?
Yeah, apparently.
We're going to win, aren't they? Surely.
I don't know.
You'd expect Wigan to be favourites for the fixture, but, you never know. Where is the game?
It's at Wigan.
It's at Wigan. The Brick Stadium, it's now called.
Yeah.
It'll be a great atmosphere. The pressure will be on Saints to put in a performance, and...
But what better game to get back? If you're going to get back on the horse, there's no better fixture.
I'm pretty sure that having lost the last 2 games, there'll be no shortage of motivating the players for this week in training.
Ian Boldsworth says Saints by 8. So there you go. Is that the women or the men though? That's the question.
Is he taking his rose-tinted spectacles off or keeping them on?
Because this is a double header on Sky.
Yes.
The women are on before. We'll talk more about Saints women in a bit.
I think the news outside of the games, which again we can cover in a little bit more detail, is...
Don't worry, Cass fans, we'll praise you in a bit.
Clearly around Vegas announcements, some of which have been formally made and some of which haven't.
Has anything been formally made?
Well, I was just looking at you then thinking, have I missed something?
Has England Australia been announced? Or do we all assume it has? Because everyone's talking...
Nothing has been formally been announced until tomorrow morning.
But when I asked the England captain on Saturday, and somebody else mentioned it as well, in fact, I think where I got the inspiration from was Courtney Winfield Hill mentioned it on TalkSport 2. So
what we know from the Australian Associated Press, which is not the governing body that's going to announce it as and when they're ready to announce it, is that 4 different NRL teams will be playing, including Penrith, who obviously could be 4-time champions by the time they go out there, but certainly have a squad with a lot of their players are very well known. New Zealand Warriors are going, so again there's a hope that all of the Pacific community that lives in and around that part of America will go and support them. So there'll be 4 different teams. The feedback from the event last year was that what it needed to make it even more appealing was an international element and a Super League element. So the AAP are reporting, so we're not breaking any embargoes.
Not us.
That Warrington and Wigan will be playing.
In the
I think
paper
everybody
this
knows
morning.
this, don't they?
Well,
It's in the paper this morning. Yeah.
officially announced tomorrow. And that the international element will also be a women's element, and it will be England against the Gillaroos. Now they may not all be played at the same stadium because there's loads of great facilities within the Las Vegas area, and so it could be a college stadium for the women's international, but it's definitely all part of that offering. And I think we've spoken about the impact that it had last time. I think this raises it up another level. And if you're a women's Super League player and you now have the opportunity to gain selection for England to go and play in Las Vegas against Australia,
Tremendous.
that's got to be a massive incentive for the rest of this year. If you're Wigan and Warrington who pioneered playing in America when they went to Milwaukee in '91, then again you're both progressive marketing arms of your club. So to take a Super League game over there, one of them clearly is giving up home advantage. But Wigan have done that before when they've gone to Australia. Makes perfect sense. And if it is formally announced tomorrow, fans will have enough time to save up for something really special. I think pulling in a little bit of Super League into the NRL's expansion plans is probably as important as they need to buy the game. Well, they've got to have a reason to. But if we can put 5,000-10,000 people, 20,000 people on their gate because we're playing a club game and an international element to the game, this I think is actually probably more exciting than anything else that's going on at the moment.
And merchandise.
Well, there were quite a lot of English fans went anyway.
Yes, they reckon about
year.
5,000.
Yeah, so add in an English fixture between 2 of the top teams. Yeah, there's
And you've got the Sam Burgess angle,
Yeah.
assuming he's still there coaching, which there's no reason to think he won't be. But you can play that card, can't you? Wigan at the moment, all 4 trophies. They could have 5 or 6 by then, couldn't they? They could have the League Leaders Shield and retain their grand final. So that technically doesn't give them extra, but it's like the team, isn't it? It's almost back to the team of the 80s and 90s. So I just think you've got something really marketable there. Do they need a referee's assessor?
Well,
there
is that. I wasn't sure whether the 4020 live programme it was embargoed
if they can. Well, I mean, I have to get a passport, but if they want us to come over, if the NRL want us to be part of it, we'll be there.
But there's a lot of people that might now think of going because it's relatively easy to get there. You don't have to stay other than for the reason that it's not like you have to go for a week or 2 weeks. Distance wise, it's halfway between here and there, so it's doable. Presumably Sky are involved, and I would imagine that they'd be bringing back the NRL games anyway, like they did last year. But you'd think if Wigan and Warrington are going, Sky are in for that, and obviously the women's international element.
How will it work with the dates? When is it, and how does that align with
First week in March? But I think you've got to work around that.
Yeah.
You'd think that the World Club Challenge will be the week before, maybe, to give it again.
I can't see the World. Can you see a World Club Challenge happening on top of that fixture, considering that?
It depends who's in it.
Well, that's it. If Wigan or Warrington, for example, are in that World Club Challenge, I just can't see that happening. So.
Unless they want it as a build-up to. They'd have it a couple of weeks before, and it's part of your build-up. It
is almost one of those once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. And if you don't take this opportunity now, you may have to make some sacrifices.
The great thing is, if again, the word coming out of Australia is to be believed, is there's a 5-year commitment to this, and this is only year 2. So what it could possibly be, I would imagine you'd have a couple of Super League clubs, maybe, let's just say Leeds and St Helens, saying
for next year.
If it's been great for Wigan and Warrington, we want to take our fans. Hull KR, you can imagine Catalan would want to be involved in something like that. There is space for everybody now to get involved in that, and obviously there's 17 NRL clubs, so you can have a different 4 next year as well. And if the international element works already, the New Zealand women have said they'd quite like to be part of this, and it's leading into hopefully an Ashes tour at the end of 2025, so there's an incentive for England and the Gillaroos to be playing at the beginning of the year and then build up to the Test series at the end of the year. It's sort of work, all the pieces of the jigsaw appear to fit together.
It's going to be interesting because, as Jodie Cunningham said on Saturday to us, they won't have played any games before that Test. It's going to go very, very cold. But it is an amazing opportunity that, again, this might be the only time for some of those players in their career.
And again, of all the games I've seen this weekend, it was probably the most enjoyable. The Leeds St Helens women game was fantastic. I think the women's State of Origin 3, again, a sellout game, 25,000.
Did you see the about the TV figures? They outdrew the Wallabies by double.
It's the biggest.
It's hilarious.
The biggest ratings, the quickest rise in ratings that there's been is in the women's game. So this all makes perfect sense. The Sydney Roosters have bought into USARL. So I think you can read about that in the next issue, which I'm obliged to say.
Is that the official governing body or the other one? Or is there only one now?
There's only one.
Right.
But the Roosters are actually sponsoring a team in a competition. They're sponsoring the referees. They're providing all the balls next year. They're taking some of the talent back. And there's a whole talent thing here about appealing to give American youth in particular a potential path into professional sport that they wouldn't get if they don't get picked up from college, and it's such a small percentage that ever do. So all of that, I mean, the European Under-19 Championships kick off this weekend, and the USA are sending a team, and everybody's going to say, well, how can they be in the European? Because it falls under the European Rugby League. But the first time that they've sent an Under-19s team, and it's really exciting.
Was it on Friday morning while we're all excited watching the election that the IRL sent out an email saying the World Cup's coming, but we're not going to tell you when it is yet? They've got
so much to announce that they don't know when to announce what.
An announcement of an announcement.
The European qualifying is coming for the World Cup. The destination of the World Cup is coming. The Asia Pacific Championships are coming. They're hamstrung a little bit because they're reliant for funding on the NRL or the APRLC, and for them Origin is the biggest thing that's happening, so everything else is taking a bit of a backseat. But the bidders for 28, 29, 30 are all in place and they're going to be announced, and how that tendering process is going to work. So there is a lot coming. It's the order they put it out in. The World Cup might be this week. It probably won't.
It's not in the magazine, so it won't be this week.
We've hinted.
Out this week. Where's the QR code? Where's the QR code? Here it is. Put it on James's head. There it is. James has gone.
That's an improvement.
QR code there. Scan it. Scan it now. Subscribe to the magazine. I'll put it back up later. So, apparently, well, we can't really talk about what everyone was talking about on social media last night because an investigation is ongoing. So we don't want to. Well, we can't prank
James doesn't know it.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
James doesn't know what it is. No, it's not the. That Saturday was the thing with Keighley and Rochdale. That was Saturday night. We're talking Sunday night. I'd be surprised that teams would send out players with messages to target certain players if they are coming back from or are known to be carrying an injury.
No, not at all. I saw a tweet about it, but I don't know the context of the tweet.
Well, that's okay because the generalisation.
It's better to talk about the principle rather than the exact people involved, because that's under investigation. But that's not unusual.
No, that's what happens.
And I think part of that is down to the team that is playing the injured person, because you're taking a risk, aren't you?
Well, notice somebody's limping and then you target the player.
How many times have we been to Wembley?
Well, Grant Millington's the obvious example.
And an injured player, Gavin Miller.
Yeah.
You know, obviously he was absolutely vitally important to Hull KR at the time, but he was clearly injured, and a decision was made to play him, and he couldn't fulfil the function that they needed him to because He was hamstrung through no fault of his own. Keith Senior.
I was going to say Keith Senior, it was Cardiff, wasn't it?
Yeah. So is the targeting an injured player bit, I'm not sure is an issue.
Sport.
Especially if they're not doing it illegally, because obviously that's a different issue. Because if you go and hit somebody in the head, then that's a different thing.
All you do is you run at somebody who's, if he's injured or their arm's injured or their leg's injured and they're struggling to tackle, you run at them.
And there is an ethical issue about it, because we have seen historically, like 1958, Alan Prescott broke his arm, stayed on the field, played on the wing.
Well, not really, because the team should just take him off.
I don't think they had the same substitute rules in 1958.
No, but I'm talking about.
But he was there to literally lay down in front of somebody because he couldn't. But they didn't run it. Jonathan Thurston in a State of Origin game. Again, his arm had gone, and New South Wales were criticised for not running at him enough, because there's that ethical issue of, well, is that the Corinthian spirit of sport? But I don't think targeting someone with a known weakness is what clubs do every week when they're highlighting what their game plan's going to be. Oh, he can't tackle as well as him, so
everyone for 20
well,
years
halfbacks,
yeah,
because halfbacks are notoriously not as good in defence, and then tie them out for when they're in attack. So I just don't get.
People must have been charged with running at Nick Fozzard's arm, because that thing was buggered for years, wasn't it? Dear me. So.
Doesn't wear an armband now though, does he?
Does he not? Well, it's walking around the street. I mean, I feel like I should have one on my ankle.
But he was like there all the time, wasn't it? 3 inch deep.
Did you have to inspect it before matches?
Yeah.
Just to make sure it was.
Yeah.
There's no metal underneath there. Or
But what's stupid is the kit inspection's done like 35 minutes before kick off, so
you could still insert that.
Yeah. Whereas in football they're doing it in the tunnel as they're going out.
When I was, we spoke about my refereeing career on here before. I think we have. So
was it ice hockey? Roller hockey.
Skate hockey, yeah. So it's ice hockey, but inside on non-ice. So you can imagine the amount of equipment a player wears. It's pretty much the same as ice hockey. So you would have to go through every player before every game, checking shoulders. I'm trying to remember it all now from memory, and that's 20 odd years ago. So a bit of padding on the arm. That's nothing.
I can't imagine when you were on roller skates.
Well, I wasn't. That's why I was a referee.
Oh, you didn't have to have a roller skate.
No. You can only get to a certain level if you couldn't skate.
You couldn't.
I didn't really enjoy it. I wasn't very. No, I won't say I wasn't very good. I wasn't very confident, but prefer timekeeping. You got paid about $5 or less just to sit on the side and do nothing. So that's
a bit like referees.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we come to this conclusion that players are going to players want to win, get an extra 50 quid in their sock, don't they? Win bonus. How that message is put across to the team, I guess, is the issue. Now, everyone uses Photoshop these days. Some people use it well, some people use it terribly. If you were to put, say, you haven't seen the images, have you?
No.
So if you were, imagine the following scenario. He says, try not to do it in the voice of Edouard Lapaglier. Imagine that you're playing for Pyongyang Pylons. We've just signed you. You're on the Pyongyang squad.
Marquee player.
And we're targeting somewhere else in North Korea. I don't know where else there is. Apart from Pyongyang. But we're playing our rival team. One of them's got a dodgy shoulder and he used to play for us. And we've put up in the change room, insert name of player here, target him, bully him, do whatever you want throughout the match, and put a picture of his head in a noose. What would...
Yeah, that's probably going a bit too far, isn't it? I think
Pyongyang thrown out of our League One application now.
Yeah, it's probably going a bit too far. But the point's made, isn't it, that you target him in a legal way. I don't see what the issue in principle is, but I think that's going a bit too far.
But how... So what happens next? Because we see so many incidents where people involved in rugby league can certainly be argued to bring the game into disrepute. And nothing happens. This blows up on social media last night, again, not talking about the issues specifically. He says, everyone's commenting without the full facts because we only know one side of the story pretty much. I mean, the fascinating thing about this story is how has that image got to the person who was involved in that image? How did that find its way there? But what can the RFL do to stop things like this? I mean, we can't sit here and go, well, we're shocked this kind of thing happens, because we obviously are aware that, well, it will happen, but where's the line? Where is the line?
I guess you can only deal with what you know about, ultimately.
Have a dressing room inspection, mate. Have a look what's on the wall.
They'll be hiding them. Then they'll...
I don't know. I think that this is one left to investigation, which I suspect might not happen very quickly.
And then when it does, it'll probably just blow over, because it can only go one of two ways.
A written warning, don't behave like that.
Some
And a
people
suspended fine.
signed I ban, as some people are suggesting. It's a tricky one, and again, we go back to a few months ago when the players were up in arms about getting sent off every week and talking about a union. A, what's happened to that? And B, surely this should be something they would be talking about, but can they when they know they go out and do it themselves? The picture's almost irrelevant, isn't it? That's the spice on this issue, but the meat of it is, if players are going out there and targeting is the wrong word, I guess, but it's the right word, isn't it? If they are using what they know to their advantage to...
Well, there was a whole thing in State of Origin 1 that New South Wales were targeting Reece Walsh.
Because what happened there?
Clearly he is their best player, and it ended up with one of the opposing team getting sent off. But I don't think they were charged with deliberately targeting. They were charged with something that they did that was a late high tackle.
It's gone on for years. It goes on every week. Players will target certain players because they know they've got a short fuse, and if they can wind them up and get them to lash out and get them sent off, then so be it.
Whatever happens when the RFL make their decision, the people who are unhappy with it will be unhappy, and the people who are happy with it will be happy. And no, they won't meet. There will be no meeting in the middle, because there never is on these kind of things. But watch this space, or don't. Mark says, just tuned in. Was that basically Phil confirming the Vegas rumours? No, because there's an embargo on it, but it's in the paper today.
All I'm saying is the Australian Associated Press are reporting.
He was in the Guardian last week.
Yeah.
Sorry. So, because he wants to know if he should book his plane tickets now. Oh, so the plane tickets I've booked aren't too mad a gamble then?
No. You'll have a wonderful time.
Worst gambles this year. But Wigan and Whiting can bring out special kits. England will probably have another kit, because we haven't had one for a couple of weeks. We now know who England will be playing. England's women will be playing next but not next.
I think we probably do.
Well,
it hasn't been announced yet.
Wales.
I think they'll have qualified for the World Cup recently and will want that fixture.
France.
Yeah. We've just played them.
We've just played them.
The other one.
Is there any other news? Has anything else happened?
Something happened between Rochdale and Keith.
Yeah, Pride's finished. I'll take your flag down now. What do I do?
Yeah, all the rainbow washing can be washed away.
I've got the new Keithley shirt, right?
Have you?
And I've forgotten to bring it in.
What was the feeling like at the
But I'll
game
bring it
between the
tomorrow,
two?
Well,
boards of
Andy
directors?
Mazy, that is what it's called, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
he wasn't there. He was in Dubai, that LGBT-friendly location. He wasn't there, so it would have been interesting. I did take my whistle and red and yellow card just in case it was required in the boardroom. Yeah, I mean, that in itself was an interesting debate. I mean, to get the chairman of a club abusing another chairman of another club is an unsavoury.
Is it bringing the game into disrepute? Oh, thank God.
Yes.
Well, it is,
Yes.
in my opinion.
It is, but
You know,
whether that's being investigated.
but it should be, because it does bring the game into disrepute. Yeah, fine, have those conversations, debates, and insult one another if you really want to do behind the scenes, but not on social media for the public's consumption. And as for the crux of the debate, I just thought it was a nonsense what Andy Mazy was talking about, frankly. People are entitled to their opinions. If you don't want to follow their opinions, mute them. Don't follow them on Twitter. Simple as that. And I think what the beauty is of the event is actually when you go to those Pride games, because I've been to probably 3 or 4 now there, you see young and old, straight and gay and lesbian and transsexuals mixing, and there's no incident whatsoever. People just get on with it, and that's exactly how we should live as a society. And it's just accepting people for who they are, and it's as simple as that. It's not ramming it down your throat, as has been said on social media. You know,
Probably an inappropriate phrase in some ways.
it's often the phrase that's used, and it's been used in our department when I was there. It's fine as long as they don't ram it down my throat. Yeah, okay.
Have we passed the watershed?
No, just stop myself. I'm being good today. I'm being good.
the crux of that to me though is that people don't want to hear it. That's why they use that phrase. And I get the whole argument about it all comes back to if you're good enough, that's all that should matter.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely true. That is true. But we know that the people that were quoted on that in that social media spat that say that's a mask and is not quite the whole story. So, for me, I would say go along, see it for yourself and experience it. And there's no doubt that for a working class northern town, to be so open and welcoming with everybody it's a joy to behold. And I'm not saying that Keighley are the only club like that. You can go to lots of other clubs in the sport, but I think I was having a conversation with the RFL's Inclusion League and saying that there are only a limited number of Super League clubs who are putting on diversity fixtures or inclusion fixtures, for example, and I think that's where we lack the impact that we could have as a sport if we can come together and have initiatives, whatever that might be, in relation to inclusion. We've got, Tackle the Tough Stuff this week, I think.
Yeah.
And I know that's been in the calendar for a long time. It's been rebadged and stuff.
Why didn't we have
years.
rainbow laces for a while?
We had it 1 year, I think, a few years ago, and it didn't reappear, and the engagement from players was really poor. But again, talking to another member of the inclusion board, go back to the Pride event last year at Manchester with Keighley having a float and Salford had a float, but there was no engagement from the Salford first team, men's team, in that event, which was poor, in my opinion. About is how do we engage people like that? But for me, I think what some clubs miss the point of is if you can engage a new audience, it actually can help your balance sheet.
Yeah.
The example I was talking about was Warrington, when they've played Catalans in the past, have filled that stand behind the sticks, haven't they, with young people from a background that probably don't normally come to the games, might not come to many more games, but they've been to a game, and it might just plant that seed for somebody. Yeah. And that's all you're doing. You're opening yourself up. So there were a couple of friends of mine that went to the game yesterday that only go to one Keighley home game every year, and that's the Pride game.
But they'll buy a pie and a pint
and
a programme and a...
Exactly. So, and the crowd yesterday was a good crowd. It was 1,600, I think. I thought Ryan had said it was about 1,800. But, I don't know what their average crowd is, Keighley, but I know they were playing Rochdale, second and third in the table, and, but a good crowd nevertheless for a League One fixture. And if you compare that to probably some of the crowds in the Championship, it would be higher, I bet, than some of the Championship crowds. So,
if only we knew what they were.
Yeah, but my point really is that even if you don't see just the human benefit in it, there can actually be a financial benefit in it.
Higher than Swinton, higher than Sheffield, higher than Featherstone, of the ones that were announced.
Yeah. This is an inclusive podcast, apart from for Gits. Gits are not allowed. They're
okay.
They're all banned. I think that's fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can be inclusive to a point, apart from for Gits. So the Keighley shirt will be here next week, if I don't forget it. It's nice. I like it. It's nice colours.
Yeah, it is.
A lot less garish than some of the previous Pride shirts, so very much in favour of that. Not the flag. Let me sing again. League One, says Carsten. I mean, hopefully,
I suppose that's the story, isn't it? The teams that
yeah, hopefully.
But at the same time that story's coming out is word that Cornwall's directorship has changed.
Oh yes, from Newshound John Davidson this morning.
Eric Perez has stepped back from Cornwall, as far as we believe, which again throws a question mark over the long-term plan for Cornwall, unless there are other investors that are coming in, and that's why there's been a change.
Why don't Gull or Bedford or Anglian Vipers buy their licence? So
Hemel becomes
Ottawa, Cornwall, Anglian Vipers, Vikings.
So yeah, 11 teams expressed an interest to join. 3 have now put forward an application. Gould from Yorkshire Men's League 4 seems a bit of a leap of faith.
It does, rather.
Anglian Vipers, who have only been going for a few years, not many. Not sure.
Bedford have been around a long time.
But Bedford, who've got a women's team in the Southern Conference and now a wheelchair team, they would be the front runners, I think, in terms of their infrastructure, and also it's building a gap. It's filling that gap, isn't it?
I had to look on Google Maps where Bedford was, which is terrible, really.
Near
Isn't it?
Northampton.
Yeah.
Isn't it Luton and all that kind of
Yeah,
so,
it's
that kind of
North,
hit there,
between
yeah.
near Northampton. Yeah.
So I
So
would
you
say,
go Midland, you got sort of Sheffield, Doncaster, Midlands, Bedford, London.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a geographical logic.
It's an
to that.
M1 corridor sport.
Yeah.
League One is the M1 Cup, yeah.
But I don't know how the announcement of Cornwall changing all their directors is going to now affect that, because if the idea is to get an extra team to even up the numbers.
My whole concern about that whole process, though, and we have discussed this before, is it seems, I was going to use a phrase that would put an E on the thing, but it seems the cart before the horse in some ways, that we're opening it up for anybody to apply, and then we're making a decision based on who applies without any influence about who applies.
Yeah. Or saying who do we want to
right,
apply?
let's look at a strategy.
What do we need?
We need to locate a club here and a club there.
And what do they need? And if that is an infrastructure of people playing,
What
then,
sport can we put in?
yeah, in that local area. And again, that's probably the problem with the Anglian Vipers, that although their chairman is quite bullish in his statement about there's so many athletes here that can play rugby league, will be fine. The fact that they don't currently play rugby league, we know that doesn't quite work in the semi-professional environment. Whereas Bedford do have access to a lot of other clubs in the area that are playing rugby league, and if that's then a pathway to linking perhaps with London Broncos, who obviously will be in the Championship next year, you're actually saying, all right, wherever you are in that sort of southern area, Bedford is a semi-professional team. London will also probably be semi-professional by then, but they could be a division higher. Then you get picked off by Arsenal.
It still comes back to like why would, let's say Bedford for example, why would Bedford work when Hemel and Oxford and Gloucester and countless others have failed?
And
because it all comes back to this lack of strategy and lack of support that appreciate the sport is probably unable to provide financially.
And you've also got to look at the finances of the League One clubs. It's another significant trip. So they're going to Workington, they're going to Cornwall, they could be going to Bedford. But the problem with all of that is they've got less money than they've ever had before. So how do you finance it? You can't just bring a team in and expect the other teams in that league to finance that move.
Kevin says Bedford's too posh for rugby league. Is it? I've never been there.
It's near Woburn Abbey, that's quite posh.
That's where the golf is sometimes.
And big concerts have been.
London's posh, that's big place. The Scholars play there. Well, they're playing Ebbsfleet this week.
Kent?
Yeah, Kent Invicta. I was going to say to Alex, who we met on Saturday after the game.
Good to see him. Because
they're playing in Ebbsfleet. They should have brought out a special Kent Invicta memorial kit for this week's game. I don't know why the sound keeps going echoey. Apologies for that, but it shouldn't do. But I've got too many microphones.
So turn mine off.
Turn that one off again. See if that works. Is there any other news, or is it now time to talk about actual exciting rugby league action? No one else has fallen out with each other on Twitter. No. Martina Navratilova wasn't there yesterday. She would have popped up from Wimbledon. She wasn't there. Well, we started with St Helens and Castleford. Castleford now on 9 points, 5 points clear of Hull. Only 2 behind Leigh. They could be making a late run to not make the playoffs, but everything seems to be positive at Castleford at the minute. The stadium's getting better because they keep telling us that. As every club's telling us at the moment, I'm very happy with the IMG scores. Everyone's going to get the perfect score from the IMG scores when they come in, it seems.
Well, apparently there's some sort of calculator that you can punch in all your data to
you
produce
can keep
a result.
up to date with what your score is. The one thing you don't know is what everybody else's score is. So.
No.
But if you say, well, we need to get up to 15 to almost be guaranteed an A licence, if you know in your calculator that, you know, maybe we've got 14 and a half, you can look at the areas where you could get another half point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a self-monitoring thing. But I think you're right. We're big fans of Craig Lingard, always have been, and Danny Maguire. And I think what they're doing in the knowledge that it's not about this year on the field. They're building something that looks far more sustainable than some other clubs are trying to build, and you know, good luck to them. They've invested a little bit in youth, which is good, but they've also changed some of the senior players there to get a greater work ethic, I think. and it seems to be working.
Yeah, I think it is.
And it's good. It's taking the fans with them, which is great.
Saints in a false position, says Andy. They ought to be in fourth. Well, they might well be after the weekend, because of course they travel to Wigan, and Warrington you think would beat Leeds on Thursday.
Why should
I don't know how they're in a false position though, because they're in the position they're in.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can look at all the fixtures and say, oh, they might have had they haven't played other than
Well, you do. I don't know how many people would have predicted Castleford would have beaten the St Helens at St Helens. So you just
Well, I can tell you on the media tipping competition, no one predicted Castleford would beat St
I
Helens.
can believe it.
But I did get Wigan spot
certainly
on.
won't have done.
No.
So, and that's just the nature of sport, isn't it? Actually, you just don't know, do you? Ultimately, the league table it doesn't lie.
And I think the other thing about all of that is we're not talking about finishing positions in the playoffs yet, and that is a different competition.
Yeah.
So the first thing you need to be is in it, and then who's fit, how you're playing, what motivation have you got from being in that position before, so you know how to. It's the old Leeds thing, winning it from fifth, isn't it? It's like once we hit the playoffs, we know exactly what we've got to do because we've done it before, and Saints will have that.
Yeah.
So the priority, I think, at the moment for them is to just make sure that they're not slipping out of the six. It is tight. It is very tight.
It is.
Just to annoy Andy and Kev, who are big Warrington fans, did any of us watch that game on Friday?
The trouble is when there's three on at the same time, and that's already gone after about 10 minutes, and you're watching Wigan and Lee, which
Well
is
done,
really
Warrington.
excited. I've seen the tries, and that's it.
48-0.
Well
But
done.
also, I think the thing coming out of that game, and brilliant Warrington, 8 different try scorers. Steph Ratchford 20 points, great.
Have they got over Wembley, I suppose, is that was we were talking about that a few weeks ago, didn't we? And
It looks like
the
they
close score against
but
Hull.
you need to see them playing against opposition that isn't absolutely decimated in terms of confidence at the moment. The most bizarre thing.
So they're playing Leeds this week, so that's another 2 points.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
They're playing me in a magic week. The statement from Ken Daly that came out with
So I missed this. We've got another great statement to come as well. So stay tuned for fans of press conferences. But it's a vote of confidence in.
Oh, that's the death now.
But it
not
wasn't.
a vote. It's not a vote of confidence.
It was. We know it's not great, but in fact, if you just put out the meme of that, that
So I found it.
all the flames behind somebody and the bloke in front's going, don't panic.
The Elmo one.
That was it. And it's like, we know it's not good enough and we'll try harder.
Do we know if Elmo, who was standing against Keir Starmer, likes rugby league?
Yeah.
Do we know? Do we know?
Nor do we know if Count Bin faces or
No.
but I suspect he probably
Ronnie the Rhino, is he? He couldn't stand because there's still questions about his private life, you see. So.
Yeah.
It's all
They're
about-
going back through the record.
Where's Rita? Where's Rita? Should put her on the front cover.
But the issue is, why would you put that out at midnight? What does it tell you? And then Ian Watson's press conference afterwards is now getting to the point where he's talking about himself and the pressure that he feels he's under.
Quotes here, no one cares, it's just about winning. People can say they do. Friggin' hell, I've been banging my head against the wall for the last 8 weeks.
That sounds to me about the statement from Ken Daly added to that, which came,
The job is, in quotes, killing him.
came after that. It's almost like we're letting him down. We like him, we understand, but we need to sever this relationship at the moment. It's just bizarre.
But where
It's
does
just
Huddersfield go?
bizarre.
Because this is the endless cycle of, well, they'll bring in some assistant from Australia we've never heard of, and then they'll go back to someone British, and then they'll go back to someone from Australia we've never heard of, and they still won't get any further on because they'll still finish mid-table. They'll still have the same number of loyal supporters because they can't grow a fan base, even if they give away tickets for free, as they'll do next year, no doubt. I don't know when they did their last tickets for about a tenner thing. I don't know what.
I just don't know, I'm just reading the statement now. The statement says
What's
nothing
the
other
point?
than what.
But what's the point of putting that out?
Well, what do they do next week if they, who do they play this week?
Lee away.
Lee. So,
Huge game against Lee, because if they don't win that,
so they lose at Lee
the season is finished.
in a similar manner. What do they do then?
Well, the other thing I think that's why it's building you up to.
You can't issue another statement saying the same thing.
No, you have to do something. I think the issue for me where you think there's something not quite right there, and again, I think we need to. We're a sport that talks a lot about well-being, and we're quite good at it. But as Ian Watson himself has pointed out, one people that don't get any well-being is the coaches, and you sort of know that when you take the role on. But people are, don't think of the human side, and I've written a bit in the next mag about the treatment of Rowan Smith, which again I'm not sure was, we don't think about the person.
Well, you can see that in another sport, Gareth Southgate. What's going on with Gareth
Who
Southgate?
apparently he's a nice bloke, and all the players like him, and his record actually stands up for himself. But apparently he's the worst person ever in history.
But I would love for nothing else, and I don't watch football. I'd love for nothing else for England to win the tournament.
Yeah, and all the people
Just
going out
Gareth
to
Southgate.
delete their tweets. No, I just thought it was good.
Because ultimately, they're now in the semi-final. And also,
Which is his fourth.
He's got to be judged on results. They finished top of the table and they're in the
And it
semi-final.
doesn't matter how you win in a cup competition, other than you win the competition.
Sits at the press conference and does the Nescafe handshake at them. That's what he should do.
But the thing about Huddersfield, I think, is epitomised by Luke Yates, because Luke Yates is Ian Watson's general on the field, came with him. I think, you can build a team around Luke Yates and his work ethic. And Luke Yates is going to Warrington next year.
But if you were to change a coach,
And that might be money.
most players have already been signed anyway now.
Yeah, but
For
it
next
might
year.
be money, but the fact that he sees a better opportunity for himself at Warrington than staying at Huddersfield, when the likelihood is that the coach that he admires the most is still at Huddersfield.
That's why I'm not convinced changing the coach is the answer.
No,
because
but something's clearly
something's clearly not right.
in that mix of players in that dressing room that the coach is now saying it's killing him to try and get a performance out of. That doesn't strike me as being right for anybody.
It looks like there is a loss in the dressing room there. The players don't appear to be playing for
the
it.
players that have been
48-0
signed,
though.
the players that have been signed, or the mix in that dressing room at the moment, and we don't know who signed it. It's all going to come down to, well, it's all Jake Connor. He's a disruptor, but we don't know who signed it. We don't even know if that's Ian Watson.
Yeah, but one person doesn't have that influence over the entire
but again,
squad.
Ollie Russell, who you could have built a team around, is going to Wakefield next year. This time last year, Ian Watson was saying, "Can't wait for Ollie Russell to come back from when he's injured because he's the guy that I need." And then they go out and sign Adam Clune, who may or may not be a good player, but I'm just saying the mix all seems to be wrong. Tui Lola here is the best fullback in the competition. We bought Jake Connor, who's a fullback. Adam Swift, who until he was injured, great signing, but they didn't need wingers. It meant that they had to get rid of the senior brothers, who seem to be doing okay.
I said this to you on
I don't understand what they're trying to build.
I said this to you on Saturday at the game, and it's that word culture, and we don't know what it means. It's a spurious word, but the way that they let Jermaine McGilvery go last year, not in the fact that they let him, they wanted him to leave, not that they didn't think he was part of their plans. That's part of the business, that's sport. But the way that he seemed to find out when they released the statement, he seemed to do anything.
The best interview you did after the Wembley Saturday was Jermaine McGilvery. Was, I think, the last interview that you did, and he could not have been more frank, open, and honest. And he actually said, without prompting, "I was disappointed at the way Huddersfield let me go." And
that to come from a player that's played for a club for so long.
That smacks that something.
It's not that you want to use. I don't like the word servant because it's a strange word to use, but if you could use that word to describe a player at a club in this era, it would be Jermaine McGilvery at Huddersfield. He's done everything for them possibly. So when you do that to one of those kind of players who does do everything for the club,
and we know that behind the scenes, Andy Kelly is a really good guy, and he's trying to bring in a new generation of talent through.
But what you've got to try and do, surely,
but
is
something's not clicking.
You've got to keep players like that, even if they go off to another club. But there's a promise of a role in the future, because that's what culture's about.
Yeah, it's the DNA of the club that you need to inculcate in the kids that are coming through. That probably
you think Jermaine McGilvery, you think Huddersfield Giants.
Yeah.
In fact, I can't even, I'm thinking of he plays for Wakefield now.
He does.
Yeah.
And if he had
2025 Super League champions Wakefield Trinity,
and if he had one great season at Wakefield, which he's talking about retiring at the end of it, you would have let him go to Wakefield to have the joy of playing at Wembley, which he'd never done before and he really wanted to do, winning virtually every game every week, which, again, you don't get that opportunity that often in your career, lifting a trophy at the end of the season. And then you go back to Huddersfield as the...
Yeah, but I don't know what he wants to do, whether he's involved in coaches or
Earl Crabtree is on the commercial side, and he's brought in some great sponsors, but something isn't right.
Here's some comments. Andy and Kevin, who are Warrington fans, so they can comment on the game. I understand that Huddersfield are missing players with illness, but you can't use that as an excuse to the last 2 months. Kevin, that was Andy. Kevin says, why didn't even get out of second gear, really? Huddersfield just crumbled. I think the players think they're better than what they are. He also says, Huddersfield reminds me of Warrington treating club legends badly. And Carsten says, what's the difference between the Giants and a yoghurt? If you leave a yoghurt alone, it develops a culture.
And
The good people at Arla will be on the phone.
None of that was having a go at Ian Watson, because I think what he said in that press conference was ridiculously honest, ridiculously forthright, and if the job is killing him, which was the words that he used, then he perhaps needs to be saved from himself more than anything, because he'll get another job because he is a good coach, but something clearly is amiss there. And it's not that they don't spend a salary cap, because they do. It's not the same situation as at Salford or at Castleford. They go out and buy every year.
So, moving on to Leeds, if you get rid of Rowan Smith, Rowan Smith's gone.
Yep.
You then have Chev Walker and, forgive me, my memory's not great at the moment.
Yep.
There was an uptick in performance, there appeared to be, and then, so what's the answer this week? Get rid of Chev Walker?
No, the answer...
Brad Arthur's coming.
I know they won, but
well,
it was a struggle, wasn't it?
Yeah, the answer this week is... if rumours that circulated before the game, and I don't know if they're true, but obviously Ian Blease did address them afterwards, that they were thinking of bringing Brad Arthur in for the remainder of this season only, because he's earmarked to be the head coach of Perth, who are going to be...
Why would you bother doing that?
Well, how disruptive
Good
could
question.
that be?
What is the point of that?
Because the thing is, you haven't got a pre-season with the guys, so you don't really know the
But
opposition.
who's that trying to appease? That's only trying to appease surely the fans. Like, that's
know.
not building a sustainable future.
I don't.
It's just,
you know, and to be fair to Ian Blease, he did say,
the process is ongoing.
yeah,
You can see the video on YouTube.
nothing. But that was the.
but then he came in to do a review.
Backdrop.
He came in.
Yeah,
the first statement came in, and it was about patience. I think it was on the podcast like the day before. It was announced saying he won't be going. He won't be going this year, and then 24 hours later he's gone. So it's like, yeah, what do I know?
That's why you've not been allowed on.
But it's also possible that Brad Arthur could be coming in to help give him that insight into what, as an experienced NRL coach, what's going wrong here. So I can almost see why there would be a reason to do it.
But that's why Ian Blease has been brought in.
And if Brad Arthur isn't going to be the full-time coach for the next at least 2 years, you've just got another voice in the dressing room at a time where you're playing matches on top of each other. The players just need to take in, what is it we're trying to... So to go back to why it was so different, the atmosphere between those two games could not have been more of a contrast. So the league game was just exceptional. Yeah. In fact, how both of those teams played after that, I have no idea. Richard will tell you, because he has no dog in the fight, which is a phrase I absolutely hate. It was really flat heading on Saturday. It could not have been more polar opposite.
And having watched the Saints game the night before, it felt the same. Just no atmosphere. And Chef Walker remarked on that in the press conference afterwards. So, I mean, not that I want to hear bloody marching on together by the band every 5 minutes, but that's not atmosphere. That's just noise. There wasn't that. There was none.
And it was almost
as
if it was the come down of the previous game, and that's not fair on London, because London were exceptional. You know, London have their limitations, and the people that know that more than anybody else are Mike Eccles and the London staff, and they very nearly got their first away win of the season with a fantastic performance. We've seen so many games this year where they've got to a certain point and then they couldn't carry on for the remainder of the game because physically and mentally they're as he says, I'm not saying, they're a championship team playing in Super League. They very nearly went the full distance playing a really committed brand of rugby with some standout players that deserved more. But from a Leeds point of view, it could not have been more chalk and cheese in terms of lifting the team, atmosphere-wise. And I genuinely have no idea about how much of this is down to what the club is grieving at the moment.
But again,
you can't even ask the question because nobody knows.
No. And we'll see how they get on Thursday at Warrington, but you'd expect it to go not quite as badly as it did for Huddersfield, but you do expect Warrington to win by 18 points.
I'm not sure. I think that they're not far from each other on the league table, and it should be a close game.
But Brad Arthur might be coming, or he might not be. We don't know. But the process is ongoing. Trust the process.
I do think they've got someone in mind who they want to fill that position, and it may be that they can't get that person straight away, so they're looking perhaps to bridge the gap until they can get them. But we don't know who that is.
Apropos of nothing, what a win for Paul Rowley's Salford Red Devils.
How can you mention him?
I don't know how it's that magic.
that
I know I could have gotten a whole KR, couldn't I, instead, but I did. 22-20. Denise Barnforth's got the best name in Super League.
Can I just claim Denise Barnforth? His first rugby league.
Yes.
As a young kid.
Is he a North Leeds Leopard?
North Leeds Leopard.
There you go.
He's from Leeds. Played with us.
So when he gets into the England squad, they'll put that on the brackets.
50 quid.
They'll put that on the brackets, won't they? North Leeds Leopards.
Just thought, Ned McCormack, Denise Barnforth. What a hotbed of talent North Leeds Leopards is. Bring your kids down. Girls and boys.
Back to my Liz Truss. You get a lettuce on your shirt. North Leeds lettuces. That's the reserve team. Salford win again, and they are in the. They're in that 22 points.
I mean, Mark Sneed magnificent, controlled the game, but Hull did score 4 tries to 3, and some of their young kids are looking. Logan Moyes looking really good at fullback. Barnforth, as you say, and
there is
Lewis
improvement.
Martin on the wing.
There is improvement.
There is improvement. I just do not understand some of their recruitment for next year.
No, it doesn't make any sense, does it? Especially because, again, they're not going to go and win Super League next year, are they? But there you go. Wigan might do, though. They won 24-6 over Lee.
Brilliant.
Late try from Liam Farrell extends the
How
scoreline
good
somewhat. But
was Liam Marshall's try? Again, if you haven't seen it, go on YouTube. It's one of these wonderfully acrobatic wingers tries, but as good as any I've ever seen.
Unfortunately, he did it at the same weekend as Emma Raducanu breaking Andy Murray's heart, so that's the only thing that's happened in sport.
Right.
Apart from the
and Bevan French again.
Bevan French.
Absolutely electrifying. It surely is between him and Mark Sneed for Man of Steel.
Catalan Dragons are back. 15-14 win at Hull KR, but that doesn't tell the whole story. 14-0, both halves, and Catalans win in Golden Point for the second Golden Point of the day in Super League.
Big win for the Dragons, I think, bearing in mind that they've had a form dip. But a slight concern for Hull KR. That again, that's the kind of game you've got to win if you're going to be taken seriously. As we keep hearing the phrase contenders, there's an element of doubt after a result like that.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, this week it's time to write your articles on which is the biggest derby in Rugby League, because on Thursday it's Warrington versus Leeds, but on Friday it's London versus Cass, that's not a derby. Wigan versus St Helens is the derby, which is on my shirt, the derby. Saturday, Catalan Salford, not a derby. Hull FC Hull KR, derby. League Huddersfield, not derby. So 3 games on Saturday, 2 games on Friday, 1 game on Thursday. That's all right. No Sunday games.
I think Alex, the London fan, told us that there is only one derby.
There is only one derby.
And he has, again, no skin in the...
Castlewood versus Featherstone in the battle of rubbish teams from Wakefield Derby.
I think he may have been a bit further east coast.
Scarborough and
Bridlington.
Scarborough Pirates, been number. I know they exist.
Les Dill set up a team in Bridlington.
No. What are they called? Or just Bridlington because they didn't have staff names then.
No, they did have the name. No. I can't remember.
Bullets or something. In the Women's Super League, Wigan beat Featherstone 50 points to 0. Huddersfield beat Warrington 32-10.
Wigan are really interesting, aren't they? Because Wigan have got Saints this week and they've got to play Leeds twice and York twice.
So they are top butts. Yeah.
Well, we'll know how good they are.
False position.
On the telly.
Absolutely not. But you'll know how good they are, certainly this week, and when they play the other 2 teams that are destined to be in playoff contention.
Important win for Huddersfield, 32-10 away at Warrington. York beat Barrow 44-0. He chopped it down with rain. I listened to the first half and then fell asleep. But Tara Jane Stanley's back. So but she did miss 3 goals, so not good. And Leeds 6, St Helens 16.
We were there.
We were. Good game, wasn't it? It was all right.
It was a great
It was all right.
My only worry, as I said to you at the time, is that that's the 3rd time in 6 weeks that Leeds have played Saints. It's a golden egg at the moment.
It's switched
But
around.
You don't want to kill the goose.
Pre-COVID, it was the other way around, where Leeds would always beat St Helens, and now it's the other way around.
It's a
but
great
it's
rivalry.
a great rivalry.
It's a great rivalry. It's a hugely...
Just play it every week instead.
It's a high, but there has to be a scarcity value around it. We have to look forward to
Like
it.
Christmas Day, we only have it once a year.
Yeah, in another couple of weeks we can sort of see.
I wish it could be Leeds versus St Helens every day. I mean, I'd probably enjoy it, but I'm weird, aren't I? So We are very lucky to have Jodie Cunningham in our sport because she speaks so well, especially when you ask her random questions about the government, which you don't necessarily ask people in post-match. But she answered it very well. You can see the clip on the YouTube. Well, it's on Twitter as well. Wigan top of the table. They play St Helens on Friday then, just before the men's game. First ever men's-women's double-header of the derby.
Good job they've got sole control over the ownership of their stadium.
Yeah, I was going to say, have they had one women's fixture?
They played Barrow at the start of the season.
But it was a standalone fixture, so this is the first double header of men's, which is fantastic. Yeah. Especially as you would hope that that's going to be a near sellout anyway. And Dean Bell's in town.
Sunday big game, Huddersfield Barrow, Warrington Leeds. Again, it's a fixture that seems to happen a lot very often. But as Lois Fussell said in the press conference, the problem is if you have the non-intense games, they get in the way of the intense ones. York versus Featherstone as well. Featherstone's still without the win in the league, so that will be a difficult one for them. Championship, Doncaster winning at Dewsbury, 20 points to 16.
Was it 12-6?
14-4 at half time, yes.
Yeah.
Paulie still going.
Did you hear about that? The game was temporarily halted because his child ran on the field.
Oh. Did more metres than Paulie. Featherstone 66, Whitehaven 0. So Feather back now. So, Sheffield 28, Halifax 0. Swinton 24, Widnes 12 as previously.
What's happened to Widnes the last couple of weeks? Because Swinton are inconsistent.
Well, they were
pick up some good wins.
12-0 up at half time, Widnes as well. And conceded 24 lots of points.
It was just a battle the week before at home. Yeah.
Toulouse 12, Bradford 12. Bradford, another team who are scoring high on the IMG points that they've added together themselves, so well done to them.
That apparently was a fantastic game for those that could get lucky tail and watched it, but somebody who I know was there said that was the most intense game that they've seen in the Championship this year.
Wakefield 34, Batley 12. Wakefield fans moaning, ref was terrible apparently, and Wakefield are rubbish now because we didn't win by 700 points.
Batley were winning at half time.
I know. So.
Well, I've not made a comeback.
York 54, Barrow 12. The Mark Applegarth effect.
The revival. 3 out of 4.
This week it is Whitehaven Toulouse on Saturday, and then a full slate of Sunday games. Batley Barrow, Bradford Wakefield.
That's the game. That's the game of the weekend, isn't it?
Halifax Fev, Sheffield Swinton, Widnes Dewsbury, and York versus Doncaster.
So when you've seen the derbies between Wigan and Saints, Holland, Holcar on Friday, Saturday, Wakefield Bradford on Sunday is the game. If you're looking to take somebody out on Sunday.
You'll be closer to odds than I will be because I will be nowhere near that.
The suggestion that rotates team into a second Rugby League game and a second Sunday is a non-starter.
We're going to an historic ruin this weekend. Bit harsh. Keighley 20, Rochdale 20 in League One. It was also Newcastle 0, Workington 44, and North Wales 18, Midlands 32.
Good result from the Midlands.
They are.
Alan McClelland apparently was running the show again.
Good to see him still batting away, isn't it? I think as we've said before. I'm trying to find. I don't know if the wheelchair fixtures are in here for this week.
There weren't any.
No, I mean the one's coming up this week. Because it's Leeds London
at 2 o'clock.
And then the other teams will be playing each other. Apologies, I've not got them in front of me, but check the RFL website, be on there. And if you are at The Edge on Saturday, you may well see me because I think I'm going to pop down and.
I'm going to try and get there. Yeah. Not that you can see.
Just get a word with the England coach if he's there. He might play. He played last time I saw Leeds play London.
I'm trying to look for the fixtures, but I can't.
Go to the RFL website. Yeah, Rugby-League as opposed to rugbyleague.com, which of course you should go to listen to this podcast and many other inferior ones. Can I say that?
You just did.
I just did, unfortunately. So fun with it being live. I don't know. Well, is there anything else we need to say, or is that it? Apart from the magazine's out, let me cover James's face.
The magazine is out on Friday in the shops, Thursday to subscribers. It's the 13th anniversary issue, which 13 normally not a huge anniversary, but for Rugby League has some significance.
Is it red round the corners?
When Rugby League celebrated a 120 year anniversary, that was another random year to celebrate. But
what happened? Because Ralph was going to have a big party, wasn't he? Then COVID happened.
Yeah.
Did that ever happen? And we just didn't get invited? Or did that just...
No, I think the cake wasn't made.
I've covered us up with the magazine.
So the stadium, which is Wembley, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it red round the edges in tribute to Angela Rayner and friends? She's the one running the country, isn't she? She's the one running the country. We all know that. Not that lawyer fella. We'll see you next week for more of this stuff.
Inane banter.
Inane banter. Banter!